For the final chapter, we're diving into the spellbinding world of Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen who could whip up a potion faster than you could say gree-gree. So, Folktowners, cozy up and listen as the ladies of Folktown serve up one final spine-chilling tale from Louisiana.
In the year 1840, the mayor of New Orleans had a big job ahead of him. Whispers of black magic were circling the city. Reports of child sacrifice, curses, and other dark goings-on had the locals believing they were in danger and questioning the mayor's ability to protect them. At the center of these rumors was one woman, Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans. Neighbors reported smells of putrid potions wafting from her small cottage. They said they heard screeches and chants of late-night seances. These practices had no place in the Crescent City, and the mayor was on a bold campaign to end them. By his side was his wife Frances, his biggest supporter. It was late one summer night when the mayor and his wife were clinking glasses with some of the city's most powerful businessmen in the French Quarter. Frances knew the mayor would be hobnobbing until the wee hours, so she decided to make her way home by herself. The damp night air was a relief as Frances slipped out of the noisy parlor, with only the flickering street lamps to light her way. That's when she heard footsteps shuffling behind her. Before she could turn to look, Frances felt a cold thud on the side of her head. She crumpled to the ground, her cheek heavy against the damp cobblestones. She fought to keep her eyes open, but she could feel the consciousness leaving her. Through heavy lids, she saw a woman's long petticoat swishing towards her. She found me, Frances thought in terror. The voodoo queen. When she awoke, all Frances could see was obscured shadows in the flickering candlelight. Strange skeletal objects hung from the ceiling. They looked like long, bony fingers. In the corner were mounds of knobby, flesh-colored lumps, surely the limbs of the voodoo queen's sacrificed children. Through a doorway, steam was rising from the kitchen, and the sinewy remains of something recently alive lay on the table. I'll soon be sacrificed, Frances thought before drifting to sleep once again. Daylight and the sound of soft humming roused her. Frances blinked and found herself in a transformed space. Cheerful sachets of vanilla beans and sage fluttered in the gentle breeze. Vegetables of every shape and size overflowed from woven baskets. The scent of gumbo, rich and familiar, wafted from the kitchen. Just then, a woman poked her head out of the kitchen doorway. "You hungry, dear?" Hungry? Frances stammered. "Yes," the woman said simply. "You could have been killed last night, walking alone like that. A man tried to rob you, but don't worry, he won't be bothering you again. Come now, you need to get your strength up." Now Frances was certain. This was the voodoo queen herself, Marie Laveau. But this wasn't at all what she'd expected. "Do you know who I am? Who my husband is?" Before Marie could respond, a frantic knock sounded at the door. "Please help us," she heard a man's voice say. Marie opened the door to see the man standing on the threshold, holding a feverish child in his arms. Frances recognized him immediately. It was one of her husband's biggest supporters, a vocal critic of voodoo and Marie Laveau. Marie showed them inside and quickly laid the child on the cot near the door. "The doctor hasn't come. She's barely conscious," the man said. "Come, dear. I need your help." Marie gestured to Frances. "Me?" replied Frances. "What on earth can I do?" "Do you know the Lord's Prayer?" Marie asked. "Of course. Pray over this child. She needs you right now." Frances crossed the room to stand over the feverish girl. "Our Father, who art in heaven," she began. As she prayed, Marie prepared a poultice with herbs. The child's tense body relaxed with Frances's words, and her breathing began to steady. Marie placed the poultice gently on the girl's forehead, and by the time the women had finished their gumbo, the girl's fever had broken. When the man finally left the cottage a few hours later, he wore a look of shame like Frances had never seen. "That man wanted you dead, you know," Frances said. Marie nodded. "Of course I do, but that child needed help." The crusade against the voodoo queen ended that day. Never again would Frances or the mayor question Marie's place in the community. Though voodoo would still have its challenges, Marie would continue her work, saving many lives and becoming a cherished figure across America. She lived peacefully until 1881, remembered as a woman of profound wisdom and unparalleled generosity, a true protector of the city's most vulnerable.
Well, we had to end on a high note.
I was gonna say that was a happy ending.
That was a happy, nice story.
Yeah. At first, I was a little terrified. I was like, "Yo, this is one of my worst fears: waking up and not knowing where you are in a stranger's freaking house with bones everywhere."
Yeah,
like super creepy. You don't know where you are. You're kind of out of it,
and like things hanging from the ceiling.
Terrifying.
That kind of stuff terrifies me. But I will say, we did this in the last episode. I think it's just kind of the theme of this, last two episodes. We do have to dispel the American Horror Story. You kind of brought it up in our last episode. Angela Bassett, fantastic. But
she's what I would want Marie Laveau to look like, though.
100%. I loved that whole hairdresser,
and Marie Laveau was a hairdresser.
She sure was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She sure was. But not the relationship to Madame Lalaurie.
No,
not accurate.
Not at all. Or the, Jets and Sharks kind of feud that was going on, back and forth that they had.
They had a dance-off.
Yeah.
But there's there's kind of a overarching theme here where you think New Orleans, you think voodoo, right? It just goes together. So part of the lore of New Orleans is what an intense spot it is for all these supernatural and crazy things to happen. This is not made up. Voodoo is a culture. It is something that was brought to New Orleans, and it's real. It's a real religion that people practice. And Marie Laveau, while she is the voodoo queen, was painted pretty poorly in a lot of history. When we first started doing this, I didn't think she was a nice lady. I was like, oh yeah, she's a creep show.
Yeah.
I was ready to start reading about all of these, hexes and voodoo dolls and people who were cursed and, I don't know, shrunken heads, something I was expecting to find so many stories, again, evil stories, very similar to Madame Lalaurie.
Yeah.
Just something like that. Not a one. I didn't find anything.
Misunderstood religion in general. People just paint it in such a dark light because they don't understand it, probably because it is, I'm sure you're going to school us on that, but it is a pretty secretive religion, isn't it?
Yes. I am literally today years old, apparently, when it comes to learning about voodoo. The number one thing, the fact that it is steeped in the Catholic religion. I'm sorry, what? Did you know that?
Yes. Only because of my familial relation to it. But especially with Marie Laveau, she is one of those, there's names that come up when it comes to New Orleans. She's one of them.
Yeah.
And not that I'm let down that there's not some creepy, horrible story that has to do with her. Again, I just feel bad.
Yeah.
This poor lady is painted in such a negative, horrible light.
And I'm not saying that things can't go sideways with it. I'm not going to mess with someone like that. But I think that's why the voodoo, maybe Creole culture, things like that in New Orleans gets a bad rap. I think that's why some people who talk about visiting there, are ooh, I don't know, it could be dangerous. I think that's why that kind of happens. That's why it's kind of over that area. I know my mom's like, are you sure you really want to go visit there? What if you don't come back? And I was kind of a little worried myself, but then I'm reading all these things and I'm like, you know what? I think we might have gotten this message wrong.
I think voodoo has a bad name. You know, like I think people associate the name with evil, but I don't think that I don't know enough about it to know truly, but like I feel like because also she's titled as the Voodoo Queen, people automatically go like, oh, she's like, this is evil, this is bad.
Well, thank you, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right? Why do we keep believing this?
Yeah.
And, you know, shout out to my man Chris Coursey and reading that Voodoo book with all the graphic novels and the comics, right? Like, that's what it's painted as.
Yeah.
And all these movies and things like that. And American Horror Story as well, right? You had, what was the character that was with her? The man that was kind of like the devil-esque kind of.
Well, he was the guy that was created by
Marie Laveau.
Madame
Law. Oh, no, yeah. Madame Laveau.
And then Marie brought him back from the dead after he was killed.
Yeah.
And then he goes after Miss Lalaurie to.
Oh, I'm totally blanking on his name right now too, and I don't even think I have him in my notes. But yeah, you know, we all associate it with evil, and it's not.
It's not. It's like any other religion. So I'm sure the people that practice certain religions look at Americanized Christianity or Catholicism and say that is an evil religion because it is spouted as someone who grew up Roman Catholic. Lots of guilt, lots of you're going to burn in hell as a child if you don't repent for your sins. It is definitely something that you can point to any finger and find good or bad in any religion or, you know, the cultural appropriation essentially is what we've done to the voodoo culture in New Orleans and in Hollywood. And I think too with Marie Laveau, I think she's done so much more good. Like she's known for all the good that she does. When you actually dive into her story, she helped anyone and everyone that needed help. Her door was always open to help, no matter how horrific these people were to her. And, you know, I mean, talk about a witch hunt.
And
true
that was
healer.
her reputation as a devout Catholic and someone who really like not only attended Mass every Sunday and was part of that Catholic community, but was very charitable and used whatever magic spells that might have been with the voodoo side to help people.
I want to be her friend.
I would have loved to have been her
I want to
friend.
hang out with her.
Can you imagine what that was like in her hair salon?
Yeah.
Oh my God, your hair never looked bad. Like you left and you walked in, you were probably like, you could probably go from black to blonde in one sitting because she'd be like, I know exactly the spell for this.
Yeah.
And not fry your hair off.
So, and that's what I think I love most about her story, the more I got to read about her, was that she's really credited with offering women more power and authority than the Catholic Church really gave women during this time period. And especially being a woman of mixed race during this time period. Again, I mean, just if you think about that, that's a wild combination.
Oh, yeah. To be mixed race, more than one religion, one of the religions being voodoo, and a female who's willing to push back against societal norms.
Yeah.
Also, an entrepreneur. She's got her own business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
Now, I don't think I might actually like rescind that statement. I don't know if she was mixed race. She might have been a free woman of color, but she, again, someone who was married multiple times. Her first husband, who was Haitian, passed away, but then she entered a common law marriage with a white man and had mixed race children.
Okay.
You know, it was said that she had like 15 children.
Dang, girl.
Yeah. 15 children.
But also, I mean, good for them.
Yeah.
They're just banging out babies.
Yeah.
a lot.
I mean, I don't think all of them survive to adulthood as that happens, you know, but birth records for that time listed at least 7. And we know for a fact that she had a child named Marie as well, Marie II, who supposedly looked exactly like her, which is why when she did pass away, a lot of people said, you know, oh, she continued to live on because her child looked exactly like her, that they were like, oh, no, it's her. She's still alive. And these rumors begin to start and spread. And I'm like, well, maybe she was a vampire.
Probably. Timeline-wise, though, where does she cross over to the Madame Lalaurie? Like, is she...
Oh, directly. So...
Why is everything happening at the same time period?
I don't know.
Well, that's where I think American Horror Story did, with their creative liberties, they nailed it. So it said in 1826, that's where she entered that common law marriage. This second husband. Mm-hmm. So again, like common law marriage, what does that mean? Like 7 years? You've
I think it used to be 7 years, right?
So never officially married, right? But you've been together that many years, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he died in 1839, and she never remarried. So she has all these children, and she has property. Okay, and I'm going to tell you this legend that I love about this. So the property that she had was her grandmother's, and it was said that this man had bought it. It was on St. Anne Street, and it had been put up for auction, and that he had purchased it off auction for her, for the family, right? Mm-hmm. But there was a legend that said that this affluent man hired her and to free his son from murder charges. And because she was this voodoo legend, that he was like, if you help me, I'll get the house back for you. So it has been told that Marie held 3 peppers in her mouth while infusing them with her intention. She then hid the peppers under the seat of the presiding judge and then nailed a cow's tongue under the seat of the prosecutor, which apparently impaired his speech and left him unable to adequately present his case. Therefore, the son was found innocent. I don't know which story you want to believe.
What does the pepper under the judge do? Does that just make him have diarrhea and he's like fire out of his butthole? I
guess we are like really making it impossible for him to focus.
Right.
Okay, great. Got it.
You cannot do your job.
He's got rumble guts.
Really bad indigestion.
Mm-hmm. The theme of our podcast.
Yeah. So, I mean, and while she's doing all these good deeds, like we said, she's a hairdresser. And that really made me think, right? Because we know what the hair salons are like. I mean, men, we know what the barbershops are like. There's gossip going on here, right? So everybody's saying she has this reputation as a clairvoyant, right? But I mean, she could also just have been a good listener, right? She could have been listening to the gossip because everyone that's coming in, she's working in the French Quarter, and she's hearing all this gossip from all these wealthy women that are coming in. And
God, I would have loved to have been a shampoo girl there.
Right?
The things you would hear.
Yeah. Oh. I think this was a very smart woman. Mm-hmm. And I think she really knew how to capitalize on the people that she was surrounded by. Mm-hmm. I think she was well above, like beyond her time. I really do.
Very observant woman.
Yeah. She also had a fixture in Congo Square, which again, big area in the French Quarter, in that kind of like Jackson Square, like heavily populated area, where during this time, and I didn't know this, but slaves were free for the rest of the day on Sundays after Mass due to the Black Codes, or the Code Noir. Mm-hmm. So on Sundays after Mass, they had the rest of the day free, that they were actually able to be treated like human beings and, kind of have a day to themselves to visit family, go purchase goods, barter, trade, things like that, go into the wilderness, go into the swamplands, do whatever they wanted to do, celebrate, blah, blah, blah. So she had a booth where she had her little, like we heard in the story, little grease, like herb, what are they, like baggies, and stuff like that. But the best, she had a pet snake.
Of course she did. I love that.
Total Britney Spears image flashing in my mind that she used to walk around. It was a boa constrictor that she had draped over her shoulders. Ask me its name.
Nagini. That's a Harry Potter reference.
God. If it was. No. Lil Grand Zombie.
Oh. Why do we think that's so cute?
But zombie with an I, not an I-E.
Interesting.
Okay. It's cuter.
Yes. So she should like walk around and be like, hey, everybody, And everyone's like, zombie, what's up? You know, and I just love this image of the socialization on this Sunday in Congo Square and just the vibe.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, what a great, talk about a smart woman. What a great intimidation tactic.
I was just going to say that.
Have
How
a pet boa
terrifying.
constrictor?
Have a pet snake and like all these like uppity, crotchety white people, like
without a doubt.
the
And
voodoo
she's-
queen.
she-
She has
exactly.
a snake that tells her all the secrets.
She's already known as the voodoo queen. So
Yeah.
walking around with the snake.
What do you think happened to that snake, like, during the day? Like, where was it? Do you think it just, like,
in the salon.
yeah, but, like, in a cage?
Probably like a basket. Don't they just like hang out in baskets?
They like to be in
tiny
spaces.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe she had like an aquarium that it went into.
Because they need to be warm.
Do you think that she, like, let it go into the swamp, and then she was like, zombie, and it, like, came back?
She had a little bell.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, my mom's so annoying.
I see, because, like, I would love, if you have 15 kids, like, you're, like, keeping a boa constrictor around?
I mean,
Listen.
maybe that's what happened to some of them.
Well, I mean, and it just, again, to bring it back to, you know, the voodoo culture of this, you know, I read something that said, like, voodoo isn't a real, like, you know, in quotes, like, real religion. And again, this is just the way that it's been misconceptualized, you know. It's really jumped, right? It's from, like, West Africa to, like, the Caribbean. And there's different kinds of voodoo. So Haitian voodoo is one of the most widely practiced in the world, even today, as the majority of Haitians practice it in one form or another. But again, I'm still like blown away by this Roman Catholic connection. More than half of all Haitians identify themselves as Roman Catholic because the two faiths are so intertwined. Many practitioners of voodoo have been baptized in the Catholic Church. Why was that not taught to me during CCD class?
I would have gone the voodoo route. If they were like, okay, you're all done. You've made your confirmation. Do you want to do Catholicism or voodoo? I've been like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm out, Mom.
It's so not fair. It's so not fair that that was not, like, brought to my attention.
And you know, I do just want to say, to touch on really fast what you just said, it's like, we don't know anything about voodoo. We're quick to say, like, what is the first thing that people say when something creepy happens or something magical happens? Like, ooh, that must be voodoo.
Voodoo.
Right.
Yeah.
Blame, like, the negative. Something evil happens. It's got to be that.
The unknown.
Well, magic in general, too. Right? And that's something I found interesting because I think we had been talking about it in a planning session that it was hard to find information on voodoo in the sense that it was secretive. Almost, that maybe we thought it was secretive, that they were just private. Maybe private's a better word. But what I thought was cool was that it said Hollywood often depicts people practicing black magic through things like sacrifice and other things, right? But in voodoo, there's no distinction between black and white. In the end, it's just magic. And that they feel that there isn't black or white. There isn't like a black or white type of magic. There is a form of spiritual possession, and it's just called red magic.
Ooh.
Yes.
Interesting.
So when a person lets one of these possibly evil spirits takes possession of their bodies, their eyes are said to turn red, which indicates that an evil spirit is present. Other than the red classification, voodoo spirituality is neither malevolent or benign. So the terms white and black magic simply don't apply.
I like that description of it, though, because having grown up in a household with a grandmother who practiced a religion similar to voodoo or voodoo adjacent, I would say, I didn't see bad things. Like I didn't associate it with bad things. But poor Marie Laveau, everything I read doing research for this is Marie Laveau's house is haunted. Marie Laveau haunts Congo Square. Marie Laveau's gravesite, which I know you're going to talk about, is like insanely haunted and don't go there. And it's, I mean, what a ass backwards way that we paint these poor women of history, of different cultures, of different religions. Like you just said, Dayelle, fear of the unknown makes people do some really shameful, horrific things.
Also, not to jump on the wagon of bad-mouthing men, but I think there's a little bit of a I don't know if injustice is the right word, but there's like this, if a woman knows more about something and like thinking about this time and, you know, like the fact that she was able to like heal people that couldn't be healed probably by doctors, you know, I'm sure there's a certain level of let's paint her in a dark light. Because...
Should I tie that to Outlander?
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something. All right. So I know you're going to talk about the cemetery, but what is with the X's on her grave?
That is so fun.
I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
I started to read it. I was like, oh, Deena's going to tell me.
Yeah.
Well, to start with, there are so many cemeteries in New Orleans. You know, I don't want to say that it has the most cemeteries, but when I was looking it up, 42 cemeteries in New Orleans.
And it's not a big city.
You know, I'd be interested to look up like the actual numbers of that. Like, is that a normal amount of cemeteries or is that an excessive amount of cemeteries?
It seems like excessive.
It sounds excessive.
But like, I couldn't tell you if that was, right. You know what I mean? Like when you think about an area and you think about how many cemeteries.
Well, I guess it also depends on the size. Like, are they all little guys? Or?
Well, let's talk about Charleston, right? So when we did that, there was a handful of cemeteries.
Was it, what, 12 or 12?
And that's a similar size city, no?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, that's what I thought was cute about it. So 42 cemeteries to the point that they call them cities of the dead.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that.
I hope they all hang out.
The dead people?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I do.
I thought you meant the cemetery. Like they get together.
Get together.
Yeah. Like, you know, at night.
They have a coffee.
They have their own
BYOB,
city.
Bring your own bones.
Yeah.
I was really proud of that.
So, I mean, it is above ground.
It
right?
is.
Because we know that, you know, the water table in that area is so high that they were struggling. They were on the struggle bus to bury both human remains and animal remains underground because of the flooding and the water table and things like that. Yeah. Animal remains as well. That was a fun thing to read.
Well, I do just want to say too, to me, there is nothing, I obviously am not planning my funeral. I'm 36 years old. But
You're never too early.
The way that they celebrate death, and I use that word, celebrate.
Yes.
They celebrate the life of the dead. They have those beautiful funeral parades where it's this jazz music and these people marching and they are celebrating the life of that person. And I think that of all the ways that we celebrate or mourn death, it's we mourn here in the U.S. You know, like it's more like a mourning thing in Christianity, in Catholicism. But that is a way to do it, man. They celebrate the shit out of someone's life, and then that makes sense that then they go to the city of the dead. Like they're not, you're not losing them. They're gonna go, like you said, hang out with their buddies at the city of the dead.
Yeah.
They don't call her confiscation Kamala for nothing. Don't take it from us.
And I support a mandatory buyback program.
A mandatory buyback program? That means the government forcing you to turn in your firearms. To what lengths would Kamala go? Well, she doesn't even support the individual right to own a firearm.
I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country.
We get it. Sometimes it's tough to understand what she's talking about. But on the Second Amendment and your rights, confiscation Kamala has been crystal clear. Her gun control agenda comes straight from that petri dish of bad ideas that is California. She can claim to be a gun owner all she wants, but we all know she's the same anti-gun California radical she's always been. Don't be left defenseless. Defeat confiscation Kamala. Vote Trump like your life depends on it, because it does. NRA Political Victory Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. NRAPVF.org.
You know, they did say at one point that they turned it. They went from fearing death to celebrating it. And I think that is a really interesting switch. And, you know, Anne Rice, again, bringing it back to our first episode, talking about vampires and you know, when she got that inspiration for, I don't know if it was necessarily for Interview with a Vampire, but, you know, for one of her stories, she, I think, was inspired by the Lafayette No. 1 cemetery, but also you can see in the new the new series that came out for Interview with a Vampire, which I'm currently obsessed with, binged the first season in one day. I'm not even ashamed of it. If you have not watched it,
I'm impressed.
The guy who plays Lestat, I like puts Tom Cruise to shame. I will never be able to watch that.
Good. He needs to be put to shame. I'm in.
But I loved the movie. You know what I mean?
Classic.
Like, I was very against watching that series because I am very much a purist.
Yeah.
And whoa. I could not believe how much I loved it. I highly recommend.
And it's all set in downtown New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
Still.
Oh yeah. They did a phenomenal job. But anyway, the St. Louis Cathedral even, which was built in, 1718, went through like tons of rebuilding and the fire and this, that, and other thing, appears in that show all the time. And it's just, these are all such staples of this area. But anyway, back to Marie Laveau, who is said to be buried in, and again, we have this, is she or isn't she, buried in the St. Louis Cemetery #1. I don't understand what the numbers are. I still haven't figured that out. Yes, there's a St. Louis Cemetery #2, but I mean, there's not a #3 and a #4. I don't understand what the numbers are.
Yeah. I wondered if maybe they just ran out of space. And so they
That's what I thought.
Well, it originally was built in 1789. It's the oldest in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. It was the first planned cemetery. So did they number it #1 because they were like,
the first one?
We know more people gonna die, guys.
Yeah.
I don't.
We're going to run out of space.
So, but the X's, that was what you originally asked,
yes.
right? Okay, so it's actually kind of fun, but 100% illegal. Let's just start with that, okay? So this is my disclaimer for everything I'm about to tell you, because do not come for me, okay? I am telling you right now, marking tombs is 100% illegal. It is against the law, all right? If you would like to, make your wishes and, speak to Marie, you're better off visiting her official shrine at the Healing Center on St. Claude, just across from the new St. Roch Market. You could do that there. So I am in no way telling you to do the things that I'm about to tell you to do.
Tell me to do them. I want to do.
Okay, so this is what you could do if it were legal. So anyway, they say she could be entombed in the middle vault of the Laveau Glapion family tomb. Okay, even though there are some people that try to dispute this. Okay, so the first theory is that when you go, you knock 3 times on the wall. You draw an X. Which is essentially, it says a cross or an X. Mm-hmm. I don't believe those two are the same things, but I guess if you're, I don't know, left-handed, I don't know, with a bit of soft red brick.
This is very specific.
Yeah,
very specific. Okay, but I would assume most spells and things like that are, right? Place your hand on the marble slab and ask Marie to grant your wish. Then leave a small offering. It could be coins, fruit, candy, or flowers. Okay? And then supposedly she will help you. All right? Now, the second theory is very similar. This one specifically says draw the X. Not a cross, draw an X. Okay? Place your hand over it. Rub your foot 3 times against the bottom. Just says against the bottom. So I'm assuming it means like against the bottom of the mausoleum. Okay. Yeah. And throw some silver coins into a cup and make your wish.
All right.
This says coins. Do not try and, now cop out and give her fruit, candy, or flowers. Like this says.
Okay. It's a money-making venture. I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The last theory. Leave offerings of food, money, and flowers, then ask Marie's help after turning around 3 times and marking a cross with red brick on the stone.
I would have a concussion because I would trip and fall.
This is interesting. It's all kind of the same, but slightly different.
Right. My theory would be do all 3.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Absolutely.
Cover all your bases.
Exactly. But again, I'm going to assume now at this point that so many people have tried marking up this mausoleum that that's why they're like, stop defacing public property, private property, whatever I guess it's not public. It is private, right? Somebody's, resting place.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it.
I kind of love that though.
Yeah.
I love that.
Spooky.
And I mean, I also like that they call it the City of the Dead. And
I do too. Cities
of the dead. And we've talked about
you so many
travel to your cities. We talked about so many like haunted people in the last 2 episodes. And we talked a little bit about haunted houses, but I'm very excited about this because Dayelle's gonna talk about haunted hotels. And I like the idea. We were just talking about this before we recorded. I love the idea of staying somewhere haunted. I love it.
Do we want to talk about how her place is said to be haunted?
Her house?
Her house is said to now be used for vacation rentals.
We're going to Airbnb that immediately.
Yeah. People say that they can hear chanting and drumming. And a couple say they found a single feather, which was her signature object, and a relic among voodoo practitioners, this is where I get a little skeptical. But I guess it's real because, magic spells, things like that. Like, depending on how you use it. Apparently, a feather can be either great luck. However, if it had been discovered on someone's pillow, it could also bring grave sickness or even death. So depending on how you use it, I guess it could be either good or bad.
All right. So we'll Airbnb that for one night. And then
I don't think they let you do that.
Yeah, it's like a minimum of 2 nights.
Fine. Fine. Minimum of 2 nights. And then we're going to go to what hotel, Dayelle?
Well, I have a couple.
Oh, great.
But
it's going to be a long trip.
I'm going to pick just like maybe 1 or 2 to talk about today. But the first one I'm going to talk about is Hotel Monteleone, and it's located at 214 Royal Street. Yeah. So this hotel is haunted by a young boy named Maurice Begerie. I'm not saying that right.
Well, at least it's not Vagine.
Poor Maurice.
And apparently this ghost likes to play pranks on the 14th floor. And so his story is, this is his story. In the late 1800s, Maurice's parents were frequent guests of this hotel, and they also really enjoyed going to the French opera. So Maurice's parents would often leave him in the room while they went to the French opera with his nanny. One night, Maurice he got super sick, and when his parents got back, the boy had passed. He died.
Oh, my God.
Many believe that the nanny tried to lower the little boy's fever by putting him in a bath of cold water, and by doing so, he then tragically drowned in the bathtub.
Aww.
So, kind of interesting. Over time, people began to suspect that the nanny was actually a serial killer, responsible for drowning not 1 or 2 children, but several children in the hotel who also had very strange fevers and the same illness that this one little boy had. So, according to the legend, these children are now ghosts, and they play with the elevators on the 13th and 14th floors. And also, the nanny haunts the spot where the drownings occurred. Apparently, it was always the same room. I couldn't find the room number, but you don't want that room. And then
The Shining.
And so this little boy's mother, obviously heartbroken from what had happened, every year she would go back to the hotel hoping to, maybe, feel his spirit, whatever. And according to witnesses, one year she went back. After staying the night, the next morning at breakfast, she told one of her friends that her son came to her and told her, "Mommy, don't cry, I'm fine," in French.
Oh, my
but
God.
I don't speak French, so I couldn't say it in the French word. So anyway, that's a fun one. It's kind of interesting because it's
Mama.
like clearly that's not like, it's like a terribly tragic thing that happened to these kids. But the ghosts are kind of just like little kids just playing pranks. So that's kind of sweet. I wouldn't mind staying there.
I'm sorry. Child ghosts are terrifying.
I don't mind the child ghost aspect. It's the laughing of the child ghost.
Or the feet, like when they run, like hearing like the pitter patter of little ghost feet. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. That's a hard pass. I don't want to stay there. I'd go back to Charleston and the ghost cuddler before I do that one.
Oh, well.
Oh, great.
Well, so the next hotel that you can go and stay at is again, I'm not going to say this right. It's the Pontchartrain?
That's
Chartrain?
That one's a toughie, but that's the body of water that's nearby.
Exactly. It's the hotel. This one is located on 2031 St. Charles Ave.
See, don't worry. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I butchered the name. Apologies. The hotel was originally built as apartments in 1927. And according to the legend, 2 sisters lived on the entire 11th floor of this apartment building.
Fancy.
But in a fit of jealousy, one of the sisters tried to kill the other by setting her bed on fire. And of course, when you set a bed on fire, what happens to the rest of the room? It also catches fire. Oh, okay. And by doing so, the apartment below them also caught on fire, killing a couple that was asleep in their bed. The couple who burned are said to haunt the 9th floor, often appearing near the ice machine. As for the sisters, ghost hunters, I guess, go to this hotel specifically. They say that they have encountered full-body apparitions of both of the sisters on the 11th floor. And they believe that they still linger in the building, adding to this hotel's like super spooky cause. And
so wait, the sisters were on the 11th floor.
Mm-hmm.
The couple were on the 9th floor.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the 10th?
I don't know. Maybe there wasn't.
No one was there, maybe. No one's staying in there.
They got confused.
That's a pretty serious fire then. And
I mean,
and they haunt the ice machine?
They haunt because it's a hotel now. And I would apparently there's an ice machine where they haunt.
Because they needed to cool off after the fire?
Or that's where it is now. Maybe that's where a room was, but now it's an ice machine room.
That's some irony.
Imagine them being like, someone died here. Let's put the ice machine there.
Yeah.
So it never happens again.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. So I have 2 more hotels.
To not stay at?
To not stay at. This next one is Hotel Saint Paris. And it's
great job.
Yeah. I got that one. It's located on 911.
Nope.
And Burgundy Street. And this hotel was originally built as a series of French colonial cottages in the 1700s. And then later it was turned into a hotel. It says that like over the years, guests and staff have reported various ghostly encounters. And then one legend specifically says that there are 2 resident ghosts. One is believed to be a Confederate war veteran who haunts the former slave quarters, now the hotel's more affordable rooms. The other spirit is that of a middle-aged man known for moving objects around and occasionally changing the TV channels. However, one person encountered this said ghost in a slightly different way. He is said to have seen this ghost drifting. As he was drifting off to sleep, his arm was over the bed dangling off the mattress. And he felt a cold, wet, clammy hand grab onto his from beneath the bed. And so clearly he left. Terrifying. And then the last one, I saved the best for last, because if this happened, that would be it. I'd be done. The hand, okay, that's scary, but this felt scarier to me for some reason. So
that's an urban legend. Like you've heard that places.
100%. Yeah. So this one is La Pavillon, located at 833 Poydras Street. This hotel is known for being haunted by lots of ghosts. I'm just going to bring up 2 different ghost haunting stories. The first one is a story of a little girl who was believed to be killed by a horse and carriage directly outside of the hotel in the 1800s.
That's just sad.
So guests and staff have reported seeing the apparition of a girl, often described as wearing like old-fashioned clothing, wandering the hallways or appearing near the front of the hotel. Many encounters involve the girl playing innocent little childlike pranks, such as tugging on the clothing or tapping on the shoulders and giggling in empty hallways. Some guests have even heard the sound of small footsteps.
Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm,
nope.
Running down the corridor late at night, only to find that no one's there. And then other people have claimed that they have seen her briefly standing in their room, only to then disappear as quickly as she appeared. And then the last, and this I have a room number for, so just keep this in mind.
Perfect. Booking.com.
This one is known to be one of the more disturbing ghost encounters, and this was in room 301. And the story goes that a visiting doctor awoke in the middle of the night and was startled to see a gray-haired old woman crouching beside his bed. She appeared out of nowhere, silently watching him. The figure was described as eerie and very unsettling, with her eyes fixed on him as he lay there, unable to move. After a few moments of terrifying stillness, the old woman vanished, and the doctor was finally able to move again. And the creepy thing is, when the doctor tried to figure out who this ghostly figure could be, there was no one was described looking like this woman. So he was just kind of like, who was this ghost? And why was she in my room, crouching down beside, watching me?
That is all right. An old woman crouching to begin with, not a great visual. Automatically not great.
Not good. And she, for some reason, that just made me feel really, if I woke up and there was an old woman.
I don't like it.
And I'm thinking long gray hair. I don't know why, but that just really got me. And then the fact that he couldn't move. He was frozen, and she's just staring at him, and then she disappears, and then he can move, and then he can move again.
I don't like it. I want to stay in that room though.
And apparently, that's not the only ghost that's been seen. And when you look up that hotel, it specifically has a void room 301.
Okay.
I'm gonna be really honest though. When I hear these ghost tales, none of them faze me. I'm not saying they can't be true.
Yeah.
But none of them would stop me from staying at any of these places. I mean,
fair.
Here's the thing.
If you told me a vampire story, it would hesitate me more than one of these stories. I don't know why. And I believe in the paranormal more than I believe in the possibility of a vampire. Yeah.
Just imagine Deena and a ghost in this hotel room being like, be honest. Have you seen a vampire?
Yeah.
Be honest. Because if you have, we're leaving.
Yeah. The gray-haired woman.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am. Have
you
seen?
come with us, but we're leaving.
To the little kid, be like, I teach 7th grade. You don't scare me.
The living 7th graders scare you more than the dead one. So
not entirely true, because 6th graders terrify me.
Okay, we'll have a whole episode just related to the horrors of Deena's 6th graders.
Terrifying.
I'm obviously going to talk about bars and places in the city because I love, me. Obviously, this is just like Charleston, the haunted city. Everyone's the most haunted city.
Yeah.
But this one has some really interesting stories that, again, like Deena just said, everybody's kind of got a haunting story.
Yeah.
But this is one that you had brought up to us. The name of this alone, it's called The Morgue.
Yeah.
So the branding on point.
Yeah.
Your marketing team, fantastic. So this is at 625 St. Philip Street in New Orleans. It was once a bar referred to as the Morgue Bar and Lounge. Mm-hmm. It's a townhouse in the French Quarter, and it's a nod to its former business, which was a morgue. In the summer of 1790, New Orleans was plagued with yellow fever. Not a new disease, just one that was hitting them really hard.
And I don't think just that one time.
No. This is just one instance.
Yeah.
The difference between this time is in the spring. Before, yellow fever would sometimes hit the lower income areas pretty hard. This time it was like everybody, no discrimination. Rich, poor, it did not matter. You were getting it.
And it was because of
mosquitoes.
Yes, because mosquitoes, of the fact that, all these ships were bringing people over. Damn freaking mosquitoes stowing away.
So the likelihood at this time of people surviving this disease was pretty slim to none. Mm-hmm. And these bodies were stacking up. So the people that weren't wealthy enough to leave during these outbreaks, they were stuck there.
Yeah.
And the majority of New Orleans, they were not wealthy. They were stuck there. Mm-hmm. So in 1853, about 50,000 people remained in the city. Nearly 10,000 of them died in the span of 3 weeks from this.
Wow.
Is that not bananas? So
and what year was this?
This was in 1853. So 1/5 of the population is completely decimated. And this was worse than the plague that had hit them in the 1790s. So they were used to this, okay, this happens. The rich people leave. And unfortunately, all the poor people that were affected, they're goners. But this was just something they'd never dealt with before. There weren't enough places to put bodies. So residences throughout the French Quarter began to open their doors as makeshift morgues. This place was no different. So they had anyone, right? Rich, poor, criminals. It did not matter. They were all stored here. What do you think's going to happen? It's obviously going to be haunted because we're not just talking like 1 or 2 bodies here and there. We're talking hundreds of bodies in a home. Yeah. This isn't a place that's set up to be a morgue. There's no refrigeration. It's New Orleans. It's hot. It's humid. And just bodies piled upon bodies. And these people, it was kind of like, okay, we'll take them out of the street so at least we have somewhere to go and we don't use that portion of the house.
And these are diseased bodies.
And, you know, it also makes me think in connection to people's religion, you know, especially Catholics, you know, they didn't believe in cremation. You had to be buried. So think about that. To be that devout that you wouldn't burn these diseased bodies because you're like, no, they have to be buried or you can't go to heaven. You know, you're just, nope, spread the disease.
So it's obviously not a morgue anymore. The morgue bar and lounge is actually now called Flanagan's Pub.
That's it. I was like,
which you're worth, Irish. You can still go.
Yeah.
But the hauntings have persisted there throughout the hundreds of years that it's been this story. The lights will dim out in the bathrooms while people are in there, dousing patrons in darkness, which I think is hilarious. When they first opened, the bar's refrigerator just stopped working, which is hilarious because it's like, really? The morgue needed a fridge. Now you've got one? No, sorry, it's not going to work anymore. And then it wasn't until the staff members realized that the plugs had all been pulled from the electrical outlets for all the refrigerators, which is such like a
petty,
probably just like a petty thing, right? Like, oh, you think you're going to refrigerate things? I don't think so. We
exactly.
High hell here.
We didn't have it. You're not going to have it.
So this is the other one that would really suck if I was a business owner. The rest of the stuff I can kind of deal with. This is a non sequitur. The toilets overflowing all the time. Plumbers would be brought in. Nothing wrong with the pipes. So it seems that now that it's Flanagan's Pub, the ghosts have not left. They are just moving about the patrons. Everybody is completely fine with it, and people go there and they're like, yeah, we know it's haunted, and it's got that local bar vibe. So it's a very popular bar for locals, not just tourists. And it's just like they're in the bathroom, going to the bathroom, and it's like they lights go out, and they're like, really, again, you just got me last week, like again.
Why do you think that they've never tried like exorcising the ghosts?
Maybe they just like them. Maybe they're like, yeah, you got a bad go of it, my friend. If this is where you want to hang, it's a party. Another one, we're going to do another Irish pub. Carrie's Irish Pub is just a block down the street from where the owners that thought of this idea were at this bar called Ryan's Irish Pub. And in 1993, they opened it up and they were like, oh, this is going to be great. They're going to do lots of live music, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, this is going to be the best pint of Guinness that you can get in the French Quarter. Well,
kind of funny. Guinness, French Quarter.
Guinness, French Quarter. Yeah. And then they got into the spa and they were like, all right, a little bit haunted. But everywhere, I think people just accept it. Like if you're going to open a business in New Orleans and it's an old building, chances are it's haunted. The problem is not all the ghosts are too friendly to them.
Because they're Irish?
Maybe. They hear footsteps, doors will be slamming. A lot of the employees say that they constantly feel like someone's standing right behind them.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Yeah. And they said that it doesn't, like, they'll have days where it's the minute they walk in the door, as they walk around and work their shift, that person is right there all day long. And then they've been in like a really hot summer day, standing behind the bar, ringing stuff up or making a cocktail. And it feels like the temperature just drops immediately behind them, which the one bartender said actually feels kind of great. And they said they don't really know who is haunting this pub, but it is one of those pubs that people go to visit and they're like, yeah, this place is so haunted. But one of the things that I love is it started as a speakeasy and the Hurricane cocktail was created there.
Oh, okay.
And they said that they also had at least one employee quit. But like, pansy.
Whatever.
That's on you. Not a bar, but the New Orleans Ghost Tour website, again, talks about the Le Petit Theater. Have you guys heard of this?
Ooh,
it's a theater.
I did, but I didn't read it.
So it's a very cool little live theater that still exists there. But one of the most infamous stories is in the courtyard of this theater, there was a wedding and they were getting ready for it. And the bride was like, I don't want to do this. And she jumped off the balcony and committed suicide.
Wow, that is extreme.
Yeah. And they say her lost soul can still be seen, standing in the very spot where she took her last breath of air before leaping to her death. They've also said that people that try to step in the same spot for themselves reportedly become overwhelmed with the drop in temperature. And they see the bride's reflection in the water fountain of Le Petit Theater. And then there was another tragic death where an actress who used to enjoy her free time with one of the theater's maintenance workers was, up in the catwalk all the time with the guy. I don't know if you know what the catwalk is.
That's
the theater.
dangerous.
It's like
That's top. That's risque.
So apparently she was up there one day getting it on, and she lost her footing, slipped and fell to her death. And they say that her spirit haunts the catwalk.
Like Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
Except not.
Except she was just getting it on.
Yeah.
And the people that work the night shift there said that they've felt her up there, and they felt her like staring at them. And then there's also this former manager who says he's the most fearsome ghost, which we always say, like, if I die and you have like a really shitty job, you're like, I would haunt the shit out of them. Mm-hmm. Seems like that's what he did.
That's the case.
Yeah. So a little awful. He committed suicide right in the staff office.
What a
right
jerk.
in his management office. So the people that work at the night shift there, again, they say that their belongings would disappear and then reappear. When actors lose something, they'd call out to the former manager and be like, where's my stuff? But apparently one of the nice ghosts there is Caroline. And if they don't get it back, they'll ask Caroline for help, and Caroline will go find it for you. There's also, I just love that you're just like, oh my God, Mark's a dick. Caroline, you, seriously? And this was one that I just thought was a little, the people at Le Petit, they love their theater, right? Like, it's a small theater, a community theater. So people are very passionate that work there. They really care a lot about it. And they do a whole bunch of different productions and all that kind of stuff. But they don't, we've talked about this a lot in Charleston, they don't love that it's haunted. They don't love that people come there just for that. They want people to come for the theater. But I say kind of like, if it gets them in the door, and gets them to buy a ticket, what the hell does it happen? But, there is a definite haunted bar scene. There's the last one we have here is O'Brien's Pub, where they say the dueling pianos is a concept that originated there in the 1890s. Yeah. But this is kind of a dark story. I don't know if I want to end on such a sad story, but if you go to O'Brien's Pub, which is another Irish pub, which we haven't talked about that. Why are there so many Irish pubs in downtown New Orleans? Like, a lot of them. We live in New York.
Came over on the boat.
Kind of surprising because I have not heard a lot about an Irish culture down there.
Me either.
Yeah. French, Spanish, heavy.
This is a former employee. Same. Former employee of Pat O'Brien. She was interviewed, and she said that she had to quit because she dreaded going to work every day. She felt a ghostly presence in the ladies' room, which manifested in the form of footsteps and heavy breathing. Now, that to me is the creepiest of all these stories. If you're a girl who's just going to the bathroom and you hear a man, heavy breathing, and you hear footsteps and there's no one else in the bathroom with you, hard pass. She said that she didn't believe that the spirit had any malicious intent, but she remarked that ghosts of any sort just scare her senseless, so she had to quit. But the person that wrote this article said, I would just like to say that ghosts add some spice to a workplace, but perhaps not in the restroom. And I kind of agree with that. But it sounds like more of the ghost hauntings in New Orleans are more fun than the ones we had in Charleston. They were all mean.
Well, I mean, New Orleans is a good time, people.
Yeah, that's true.
I just, again, it's, I'm listening to all of this and I'm like, see, no vampires, no creatures.
Yeah.
No voodoo. All of that takes a creepy kind of, they're in the shadows. That's what it is. Yeah. They're in the shadows.
Things that go bump in the night.
These ghosts and tricksters are the ones that try and take all the attention, and everything else is just so subtly there that, maybe you miss it because you're distracted by everything else.
Or they're walking amongst them.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
The vampires are amongst them. Like we talked about in the first episode to kind of tie it up, that insurgence and like the crazy rise of numbers about modern vampires in New Orleans that was just happening on TikTok for like a solid 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a coincidence. It's not like a movie came out. Like, yes, Interview the Vampire's been out, but that's been out for like a year or so.
Oh, they're about to start their 3rd season.
Exactly. So it's not like a show created this,
No, definitely
rise and interest in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It was one person telling their story about an Uber ride or a taxi ride or something with someone talking about meeting a vampire in New Orleans.
They have a vampire association.
Yeah.
I will not be joining.
I mean, I'd be tempted.
To join?
Why not?
You just said you'd be more afraid of the vampires than the ghosts.
Not if I'm one of them.
That's fair. They are always hot. If you become a vampire, you're like instantly super hot.
Yeah.
And they don't bite you unless they have your permission.
So now that we know that Deena wants to be a vampire, I want to stay in a haunted hotel. You're going to be friends with Nicolas Cage and buy a house with him.
I would want Marie Laveau as my best friend, though.
I would too. Wait, what do you have there? Dale has a very large picture. Okay. Is your fun fact to lead us out before Deena closes out the episode?
The pyramid?
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen those in cemeteries.
No. But
all right. I'm excited for this because you're laughing so hard and I don't know what it is.
Because I couldn't. It's just so ridiculous. Okay, so we know that like Nicolas Cage has like a really strange obsession with New Orleans.
Wait, this is a great callback to the last episode when you said we'd be hearing more from him. Is this the more from him?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready.
Yeah. So we know that like he owned the mansion for a little bit, La Laurie's mansion for a little bit, and then he lost it to foreclosure, blah, blah, blah. So the other thing that Nicolas Cage purchased in New Orleans was a 9-foot tall pyramid-shaped mausoleum. He bought this in 2010 for around $3.2 million. It's made of polished white marble, and it's engraved with Latin, which I can't speak Latin. I'll put the image on social media so you'll be able to see this. But it reads, "Everything from one." Now, this is where he would like to go to rest one day. But what I found funny about this is, A, you guys can see this. It's kind of like, why? And the locals hate it with like a passion. They hate this thing because it's just like, why? Why? And apparently it draws a lot of tourists to it because it's Nicolas Cage's pyramid. And women put red lipstick on and kiss.
Oh my God.
They kiss the surface of the empty pyramid of death. So,
well, now we know why the house got foreclosed on, because he spent all of his money on the stupid fucking pyramid.
I had heard he owned 3 properties down there. So I wonder what the third is. But that's not uncommon.
I know, but I just thought it was funny.
I've seen Egyptian-styled mausoleums and things in the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. I've seen it in the cemetery in Brooklyn, Greenwood Cemetery. There's a lot of iconography, and the symbolism, depending on what it is. I don't know. I'd have to look at it further.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot that has to do with that. I mean, think of ancient Egypt in itself. The mummies.
Yeah, but why?
New Orleans has mummies. We talked about this.
But why is Nicolas Cage buying?
Well, I mean, that's what I was wondering based on the people that were buried in Sleepy Hollow. I was like, we got Egyptians here? So I don't know. Some people just like this the symbolism of it. I don't know.
Nicolas Cage is a weird man. We should not try to understand.
I mean, what was the saying again? Everything from one?
Everything from one.
One what?
Yeah.
God, body.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, what is he trying? What is the one?
Wait, maybe he thinks he's the one.
Could be.
So he came from himself?
I got to be honest with you guys, the National Treasure movies are some of my favorite of all time. So.
I mean, not knocking him as an actor. I just think it's funny.
Hilarious.
And his name just keeps popping up.
Dear Lord.
All right, Deena, read us out. Read us out.
Well, I guess, if we're talking about like final words here and resting places and stuff, to bring it back to Marie Laveau, when she did pass away, by the way, at 98.
That's incredible.
Yeah, 98. Kind of reminds me of Betty White. I'm telling you. Like, they almost made it. It was said that she passed away very peacefully. She died without a struggle, with a smile lighting up her shriveled features. I don't like how they worded that. Do not say that about me.
I won't.
Okay. A smile lighting up her beautiful features.
Got
it. Although Marie Laveau's history has been very much sought after, It has never been published. The secrets of her life could only be obtained from the old lady herself, but she would never tell the smallest part of what she knew and how her lips are closed forever, and she could neither read nor write. Not a scrap is left to chronicle the events of her exciting life. So everything, every spell, every bit of that voodoo and her legacy
is with her.
She never wrote anything down.
I love that.
It's kind of wild if you think about it, and especially since we are such avid readers in this group, and I do love to write, and I'm such a believer in writing things down. I'm just like, oh my God, all of that lost, gone forever with her.
Maybe it's her last screw you. You didn't understand me when I was here. You don't get to
but also
use me when I'm gone.
But also we're talking about her.
Yeah. Her legacy lives on in the good deeds she did, not what people had to say about her.
And we do keep saying, and it's why we started this podcast. We've been talking about all these haunted places, and you even said the word, and I couldn't help but think, that word haunted has such a negative connotation, but people like us, we like the haunted.
It's intriguing.
I'm drawn to it.
Yeah. And I found this really great quote, and I thought it would be such a great way to kind of end this awesome season. And will always be such a bucket list place for me to visit. I hope I get there within this next year. But it said, the geographical fluidity of New Orleans setting, its cultural heritage of Native American beliefs about the permeability between the living and the dead, its deadly and regular occurrences of disease, and the scourge of enslavement set up the city as a place of extraordinary supernatural happenings.
I love that.
So it's just the perfect beacon for all these hauntings. So maybe there's vampires, maybe there's these creatures, maybe these people like Madame Lalaurie and Marie Laveau and whomever else we've all mentioned in these haunted houses and ghosts. Maybe they all live there because they've all been called there. It's the perfect place for everyone to settle.
I think we've talked about it in every episode. There's something about this place. There's just something really about it. And what a perfect way to end this season, which was so fun to do. And yes, we do have to go because that would be a whole nother season in itself. But before next season, we'll be back for something fun. Just to wrap up the season, if you guys haven't, we're going to have extra content for you. And check out our social media. You'll be able to see all of the pictures and articles and sources that we found all this information if you want to do further looks into everything that we've talked about. And we would love to hear some suggestions from you guys of places you want us to do next.
Oh, please.
If you have a haunted town, if you live in a haunted town, if you have a place that you want us to investigate, and we'd love to visit some of these places.
Yeah.
And if you want us to come visit, we are down. But send that over to us, and we can't wait to see you next season.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Folktown is a production of Gotham West Studios. Our editor is Katie Yonner. Our associate producer is Grace Heerman. Our senior content producer is Kyle Bosch. Our director of marketing is Dayelle Watts, and our executive producer is Tommy West. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Folktown Podcast.